Hello students, welcome to Mr. Higashi's art class. Once again, we are into week 5 or lesson 5, and this week is the first week of fall. Ooh, exciting! And we are going to start the fall project. If you remember last week, we talked about colors. We learned about the primary colors and secondary colors, and we even talked about the tertiary colors and the warm and cool colors. And if we didn't make it that far, or maybe you didn't see that part of the lesson, we want to talk today mostly about the warm colors. So the warm colors are red, yellow, and orange. And they are the colors of fire, the sun, and heat. Usually you associate those colors with heat. But in the fall time, often the leaves turn those colors. So we are going to make a leaf using warm colors today. And then we'll finish the project next week with some cool colors to make the background. So what we're going to use today is a piece of white paper. And hopefully you have a kind of a thicker piece of construction paper. Normal copy paper will be a little thin. You can still use it, but I'm using a thicker piece of paper. I'm going to need some scissors. I need some liquid glue because I'm going to paint some glue on here. We're going to create a collage. We're going to glue a little piece of paper together. I'm going to use a paper plate to put my glue on top of, but you can use any sort of container that you want to. I have a cup of water that I'm going to use to clean my brush with, which is right here, paintbrush. I'm going to use this to paint glue onto a leaf that I made. A pencil, something to add a little bit of color, markers or crayons. And the tricky thing that you might not have at home is tissue paper. I got this tissue paper at Michael's art supply store. It was $4.99 for a package of 20 pages or 20 big pieces of paper, and it comes with all the colors in the rainbow. So I'm going to use this for both days of my lesson. If you don't have construction paper, you could hunt around your house for some warm color paper. So maybe some orange, yellow, and red construction paper, or pieces out of a magazine, or out of a newspaper. Anything that these colors, that is paper, you can cut up and glue, will work fine. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to get some supplies ready. So one thing that Mr. Higashi loves to do is I love to keep a box of old pieces of paper in it, so I can cut these up very easily. But like I said, I want to use tissue paper today, so I've got my brand new package of tissue paper. Let me open it up. Ooh. It is paper. And tissue paper is really, really thin paper that usually moms and dads use for gift wrapping. But it's also a very good craft supply. Mr. Higashi is going to find the middle and open it up. Look how big that is. That's the black side. Let's use the red one so you can see. Whoa, that is huge. And it has all kinds of colors in this package. Great deal for $5. So I want to take the warm ones. And this package already has them divided into warm and cool colors. So here's my reds and oranges. I actually don't see any yellow. Oh, there's some yellow in the middle. So let me find some yellow too. So I guess it's not fully divided. I'll take these ones out and I'm going to save these to the side. We'll need those colors today. I'm going to take my yellow home. There we go. And I'm going to set this to the side. So I have yellows and pinks and reds and oranges. And I definitely do not need all of this. I just need a little bit of this. The first thing Mr. Higashi is going to do is I'm going to cut this in half. This is way too much. So I'm just cut right down the middle. I can cut through all pieces because tissue paper is very thin. And you can have your mom and dad help you with this, or brother and sister, or you can have it done ahead of time. That is fine. And then I'm going to take this big piece. This is still way too big. I'm going to cut this in half also. I'm going to end up with just a nice small section. I don't need all of that tissue paper. So I got a couple sheets of this Now what I want to do is I want to turn this into small squares. So I have two things I can do. I can either just cut these into strips, which is what you'll probably end up having to do at home. Just cut straight across. And then cut the strips into squares. And it's okay if they're not perfect. Mr. Higashi, snip, snip, snip. And actually, this one little strip is probably all I need for my project, to be very honest. So I have cut lots of little pieces. I'm going to store them in a plastic bin. But if you have a Ziploc bag or something to put them in, that's fine too. And if you don't have, or if you have scissors, but you might also have a paper cutter at home. Mr. Higashi's an art teacher, so of course he has one. With your parents' help, you can use the paper cutter and you can cut many pieces all at once. And then it becomes very quick. So Mr. Higashi's did not come out perfect. Oh, bad example, Mr. Higashi. Mr. Higashi is going to snip this up. That should be enough for today. But I'm going to just clip it in my box. Little squares. This is what I would do in the classroom for boys and girls. So I would just make lots of little squares for you to share at your table. And like I said, tissue paper is so thin, you can cut lots of it. And it doesn't need to be perfect. So however you end up cutting it, it's going to be okay. So now Mr. Higashi has a bunch of tissue paper to work with. I'm going to fluff it up a little bit. It's kind of like fall leaves in a pile. Just like that. Okay, let's see what we need to do. I'm going to take my paper and on it, I'm going to draw a great big leaf shape. And I don't want to do anything too fancy. I just want to make your normal sort of teardrop shaped leaf. So I'm going to take my pencil. I'm going to first very lightly draw. That way I can erase if I want to and get an idea. And I want to try to use as much of my paper as possible. So, Mr. Higashi. I'm going to maybe that have a little stem. I'm going to draw my leaf shape all nice and big. And I'm going to do it in marker so you can see it on my camera here. It's always hard to see. So let's use a black marker. I'm going to trace my leaf. Just like this. Now that's kind of small, boys and girls. Hopefully you can see that. Mr. Higashi put his camera so far away. But that is my leaf shape. And remember, we don't need anything super detailed. But here's the fun part. Now, I'm going to draw in my leaf. I want to divide it into some different shapes. So I'm going to take my marker, and it doesn't matter what shapes they are. Well, I'm just going to use lines. I'm going to draw 3 lines going across it, like this. 1, 2, and I want to make sure they're not straight lines. 3. Just like so. And I'm going to draw 1 line going up across the 2. That way, Mr. Higashi has created different sections in his leaf. And what I'm going to do today is I am going to add my colorful tissue paper into those sections. And I'll show you how in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to get some stuff ready for next week too. So I'm going to put some designs in my outside also. I'm going to add Let's see how many. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna put 3 lines on the outside of each one too. Just going from the leaf off the paper. 1, 2, 3. Sort of like that. I want to do it on both sides. Remember, if you made your leaf small, you might have to draw more than 3. And this way, it kind of looks like a stained glass window. You know what that is. All right, so let's take a look at the process of making the leaf. So boys and girls, now you can see my leaf. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my glue, and on my paper plate, I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue. Oh, my glue bottle is a little clogged. Just squeeze out some glue. There we go, my glue is a little dry. Not too much. Set my glue bottle aside. I'm gonna get my water cup and my brush. Get a little water on it. Have my scissors ready, and I have my tissue paper all cut up and ready. And what I'm gonna try to do is in each square, I want to paint some glue, and I want to try to use one color per section. So I am going to some glue, and I'm going to start with this big one right here. Let me paint some glue on here, and I can spread it all out. Ooh, and look what it is to my marker. That's right, because I use watercolor or washable markers. Spread the glue out. Paint the glue on, just like that. And then I'm going to take my leaves or my tissue paper, and I'm going to swoop it on and try and fill out all in that section. Now, if the piece doesn't fit, I can use my scissors to cut it to make sure it stays inside my lines. And if my glue dries out, I can just take a little bit of glue and wipe it on top and let it do that. Overlap my tissue paper, and it creates a really cool light and dark effect. Gosh, let's do a little bit more right there. There we go. I'm just going to keep adding yellow tissue paper. Now you could divide your tissue paper up beforehand so you know where all the colors are, and that would be okay. There we go. Now this is why I said you want to make sure to use kind of a thicker paper. If you use thin paper, it might rip your paper. I am just going to take my time. This is not something you want to do fast. Nice and slow. And I'm going to overlap it. And look. Oh, smeared it. There is Mr. Higashi's first part of his leaf. Now I want to keep using other colors and try to fill the other ones in, but I only want to use warm colors. So Mr. Higashi is going to do this one now. And there is Mr. Higashi's fall leaf. See it all on there? And this is where I want to stop today. I will be doing more next week. So I'd love to see yours, boys and girls. And remember, if you don't have tissue paper, you could have used construction paper and cut it with construction paper. And if you don't have any paper like that at all, you could have colored it in with different crayons, all warm colors. And remember, pink is made out of red, so pink is a warm color. And there you go, boys and girls. That is how my leaf tissue paper collage turned out. I'm gonna add the full colors to the background next week. So make sure you finish this up this week. Bring it to class next week and show it to me. Take a look. Ooh, hear the trash man outside too. So noisy. All right, boys and girls, thank you for joining me today. Do your work. Make sure you go on Canvas and take your quizzes, and have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.